There's too much to learn and not enough time. I'm going to tell you today about 2 traps to avoid, and I'm going to give you some techniques to help you make the most of your revision time. There would have been times when people have asked you to do things that are just way too easy. And also there would have been times when people have asked you to do things that are way too hard. The thing is, it's only you that knows what's right for you. And the good thing is, you're in control of the learning that you do. You can make it so it's just right. Now, this might sound obvious and easy, but we do have to guard against some of our natural habits. For example, we normally prefer to do things that we find easy than hard, and we normally quite quickly slip back into doing those things that are easy. When it comes to learning, we know we actually need to be working on the things that are difficult to do. For this reason, we need to be avoiding tasks that involve passive thinking, such as copying or reading. Again, this sounds obvious, but the problem is these are the tasks we often do because they're straightforward and it makes us feel like we're doing work, but really we're not. Hopefully, after watching some of the other videos, you'll be getting really good at changing your passive techniques into really good thinking techniques. So, we know how to avoid the first trap, the passive trap. That leads us into the second trap. How do we avoid spending time thinking about things that we already know? Even doing good active work, we might be spending a lot of our time on things that we already know. We might be answering questions, we might be summarizing, you might be doing mind maps or any other good revision techniques. But if we're not careful, you might be spending most of your time on things that we already know. And in fact, what we should really be doing is trying to spend more of our time on things we don't yet know. Once you get into the habit, you'll start to look at your work and start to realize when you're spending too much time on things that you already know. Let's try it out on some examples. Well, you might have decided to do some reading and then answer some questions. Well, straight away, we know that the reading part can quickly become passive, and that's our first trap. However, there's also a good chance that you're going to be spending time reading about things that you already know, and that's our second trap, doing things that you already know. My advice is, don't do the reading first, go straight for the questions, and that way they will show you the bits that you don't understand. Then you're only spending time reading about the things you don't understand. So by doing the questions first, that helps us avoid that trap of doing things that we already know. But let's now look at the time you spend on those questions. Because if you're answering all those questions, again, you could be falling into that second trap. You might be answering questions on things that you already know. So what you could do instead of that, you could just scan through those questions, find the ones that you're not sure of, and then just focus on those tricky questions instead. That way, you're spending time on things that you don't know. You can make sure that your time is well spent. Don't worry about missing out information when you're scanning through. That's always going to happen. The most important thing is that you're trying to spend as much time as possible on those things that you find difficult. Once you become aware of it, you can always be on the lookout for the difficult things. This is the reason that you've been putting ticks and crosses on your work and doing things such as the tough stuff only activity. However, you can find the tough stuff all over the place. You just need to make a note of it. For example, during a lesson or a lecture or a video, you're going to come across things that you find difficult to understand. That's great, because that's the difficult thing that you need to make a note of. Here's where a bit of easy organization comes in. All you got to do is have a notebook or some revision cards in your bag ready for this specific purpose. Now, when you write that thing down, my advice is be as specific as possible. Don't just write down the general topic. Try and be nice and exact in exactly what you got wrong. That way you're going to be looking up that exact thing and you're not going to be looking up the whole topic and then again falling into the trap of looking at lots of things that you already know. Be exact. What you've done is you've found a gap between the new information and what you already know. So what you then need to do is try and build a bridge between what you already know and this new information. That way, if you can connect those things together, it's going to help you understand and you won't make those mistakes again in the future. This idea of closing the gap will be the topic of another video. What you're training yourself to do first is find the gaps. Once you start looking for those gaps, you'll see opportunities for finding those gaps everywhere. Gaps are great because they directly show us how to spend our time well. So, overall, for time well spent, there are really 2 key questions to keep in mind. How much time am I working on things that I already know? And is there a way for me to find out things I don't know? Use these questions to help you optimize your revision. Remember, if what you're doing is easy, it's probably not really helping you. Good luck with your revision.